Hello and welcome to a supplemental video for Game Design 1. My name is John Simpson. This is no substitute for coming to class. It is supplemental. I'm creating it so in case you forget something I say. So this is for week 2 of ID118 Game Design 1. This week we're going to be kind of reviewing Unity basics a little bit. We're going to talk about creating primitive objects within Unity. If you remember from last week, all of our primitives are things like cubes, spheres, capsules, cylinders, planes, and so on. These are the basic building blocks of everything that we do within Unity. As you progress, you will eventually make 3D models in other programs such as 3ds Max or maybe Blender, but for now we're going to keep most of our creation within Unity itself. So learning to build with these basic shapes is very useful, but they are fairly limited. So there is a tool that is called Pro Builder for Unity 3D. This tool adds quite a bit of functionality and allows you to actually do some real 3D modeling within Unity. It provides access to the edges, vertices, and surfaces that make up your model. You can subdivide, you can extrude them, you can do quite a bit of stuff that you could do in a full-fledged 3D modeling program, but you get to do it right there inside of Unity, which is nice. So we're going to look at how we install that, and I do link to the manual here, so be sure and read the manual. This is an extensive tool, and you really do need to spend some time reading through this manual so you know how to use it. The basics are listed out right here, and I will demonstrate them for you today. Additionally, we're going to talk about Text Mesh Pro, which allows us to add like floating text boxes into our world, as well as later on we'll create some text that is displayed for the player when they reach a certain area and trigger an event. So those are our two topics for now, and we're going to jump into those here right after the break. Okay, here we are in Unity, picking up pretty much where we left off from last week. We have a simple plain primitive along with the first person asset from Unity. We installed this last week. I did not record it. I should make a video for that. But this again adds functionality to our game in a quick and easy way so that we are able to focus more on creation and less on having to reinvent the wheel. So everything in our 3D environment is some sort of primitive object or maybe an advanced model from a 3D modeling program. Now, the objects that come with Unity are fairly limiting. We can do some pretty cool stuff. Of course, capsules. Capsules make a great stand-in for enemies or just any other types of objects. I want you to experiment with building different things out of capsules, different primitives, I should say. Combine them in different ways to come up with something bigger than the sum of its parts, something more than the sum of its parts. But even with a lot of imagination, this can still be limiting. So let's take a look at how we get Pro Builder for Unity. So I'm going to pop up my lecture notes and put them on the other screen real fast so that I can continue and stay on track. So Pro Builder for Unity 3D, if we follow that link, we can see what it is. And again, there's the documentation for it. It's a building tool from within Unity. The way that we can get that is we're going to go to our window, and then we'll go to Package Manager. We want to refresh. You'll have to be signed in so you can access your packages, but it's pretty simple. You can just search for it, and we call it Pro Builder. helps if you spell it correctly. I was way off. What the heck? That was not even close, was it? And that is not what I want. Let's go to My Assets. Let's go to Unity Registry. There it is. Okay. So just by typing in Pro, I've already installed it. If it doesn't come up, search the Asset Store for it. It might be there. There are different versions of it. I'm going to go ahead and just get the verified version, and we simply click Install. But by going to the Package Manager, searching the Unity Registry, it should show up when you type in Pro. Now this installs a set of tools that I said bring a lot of functionality to Unity. It's going to allow us to model in a much more detailed way. Okay, so we are installed. And the first thing I want to do is I want to bring up the menu or the toolbar for it. So I'm going to go to Tools, and under Pro Builder, there are a lot of windows. The main one we need is the Pro Builder window. And I like to stick that behind. Let's put it down here for now, so it's out of the way. Okay. It's also easier to access running horizontally than it is vertically, I think at least. Alright, so instead of going up to Game Object, create whatever we want to create a Pro Builder object, we're going to do it from here. So there are several different things we can build. You can draw your own poly shapes, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff, but we're going to start off with just the simple primitive shapes. And so I'm going to click the plus sign, which is going to bring up the shape tool window. And then from here I can select what kind of shape I want to build. So if I want to build an arch, or if I want to build some stairs, each of these different primitives will have different options that you can modify. So things like width, curvature, you can make a spiral staircase, lots of different options here underneath the shape tool. But for now we're just going to build a simple cube, and you will notice that this cube is blue, and if we look at our hierarchy it says Cube Preview. So this object doesn't actually exist yet, it's simply a preview. Remember, everything in Unity is measured in units. We prefer that everything be 1 unit, so let's go ahead and just leave the X, Y, and Z at 1, and then we'll press Build. Notice that it's created it next to it, and we have another preview sitting right next to it. I should say it created it where the preview was, moved the preview over to the newly created cube. From here we're just going to cancel out, and you'll notice the preview disappears now. So when I select this object, it's a little different than if I were to create a cube like this. So 3D object, cube, and then I'll just move this one over. So we can see right off the bat, it starts off with different textures. And let's do this, let's get rid of that, there we go. So our Pro Builder cube has a texture on it, says prototype, it's got the little squares on it, makes it a little easier to measure. Our standard 3D cube from Unity, just plain white. Okay, so for demonstration purposes, I'm going to turn off everything except for that single cube that I'll be working with. Now this cube, just like everything else in Unity, is made up of basically an empty with a bunch of components attached to it. This particular object has a component called the Pro Builder Mesh Filter, and that's where it gets its basic shape, as well as some more down here. But this is one we're primarily focused on, is this Mesh Filter. This mesh filter is going to allow us to access not only the entire object, so we can move it on the X, Y, or Z if we wish, but we can also come in and access what are called the sub-objects. Now, the sub-objects are the objects that make up our mesh. We have vertices, which is a point in space. So each one of these corners is made up of a vertex. We have edges. Now, an edges is a straight line between any two vertices. And then finally we have faces, and a face is any closed set of edges. That's what makes up our model. A key thing to keep in mind is an edge is always straight. If I want to bend it, then there must be a vertex there for me to be able to bend it. An edge is always straight. It's always a straight line from one vertex to another. Now, some basic operations that we can do are things like, I'm going to grab the face tool for demonstration purposes, but we could very easily grab this face and begin to stretch it out so we can make our model longer. Something to note is that when I just grab that edge and or that face and I drag it out, I am simply stretching this polygon. Notice how when I click, this is all one piece. It used to be this size, but now it is this size because I've stretched it out by grabbing hold of it and pushing it, moving it around on the X, Y, or Z axis. Now, if I were to select an edge, select a face, go Control and Shift at the same time, well, that's going to do what is called extruding. Now, when we extrude, we create new faces. If I just drag, I'm going to stretch these faces. But when I press Shift and drag, then I am extruding. I'm pressing Control at the same time too, so that I snap. But that's a given. Anytime I move, rotate, or scale something, you can almost guarantee that I am pressing the Control key. Extruding is how we add detail to our model. Let's say I want to make something that's maybe spaceship looking. Okay, so I'm going to start by extruding this edge a few times so that I have some surfaces, individual surfaces here to work with. So now there are many tools down here. I highly recommend you spend time using the manual, reading through the manual. But one of the things that we can do is we can select a loop. So if I say select loop face, it's going to select all the faces around in a particular direction. If I want to say select face ring, I would come over and click on that, and so notice how it selected the ring in the other direction than the loop. So that allows me to grab all of those faces at once very quickly. Another way to extrude faces is to come down and find the Extrude Faces button. Alt-click button to show additional extrude options. So if I press Alt and click, it's going to give me the options for my extrusion options. So let's see what happens. We're going to say 0.5, face normal, extrude faces. Okay, that's pretty cool. That looks good. But what if we change this from, say, face normal to individual faces, and we do it again? Well, now we got a different type of extrusion, don't we? Let's see what vertex normal does. About the same thing. So Control Z to undo that. If I want to, I can grab my move tools and I can begin to move these objects around. We're going to look at what is called subdivision now. So if I come down and I find where it says subdivide faces, click on that. That has now divided that face into 4 individual faces. I can come and grab my vertex in the center, and I can pull it out, and I can make it kind of pointy at this point now. Now I'm getting some weird deformation because of the way it's moving it out, so I'm not 100% sure I want to do that. You want to pay attention to what you're doing, and if it seems like your surfaces are bending, maybe try to come at it a different way. A lot of modeling is experimentation, so don't ask me if something will work, just try it, and if it works, hey, good for you, and if it doesn't, try something else. I'm going to take this vertex and I'm going to see if I can do what is called chamfering on it, which it does not appear that I can. These will change, your options change due to whatever tool you have selected, and you might see that. But coming in here and exploring and just seeing what you can do is a great way to learn the tools themselves. I'm going to Control Z because I have a different idea of what I'd like to do here. Let's get rid of that. Perfect. So now this is back to being just a single face. What I'm going to do instead of subdividing it is I'm going to bevel it. So let me find the bevel. Probably need to switch over to edges. There we go. And then I bet I can find there's bevel. So certain tools are only available in certain areas. But what that has done is that's given me a little better face here. Now I'm going to jump over to face selection mode. We'll select this. We will hit R for scale. We're going to scale that down. So it's kind of pointy. Hit W to get to the move tool, and we can drag it out. So now that looks a lot better. None of my faces are warping or twisting. And as we can see, we can very easily start to build a more complex shape than we could with just primitives. So that, in a nutshell, is Pro Builder for Unity 3D. I highly recommend that you spend some time reading through this. I apparently could use a refresher myself, so I think I will be doing that this weekend. Alright, we're back. One thing I should have mentioned before the break was when you are done editing in a subselection mode, make sure that you go ahead and go back all the way up to the object selection mode. That will keep you where you need to be, and you'll be able to select objects and things like that. So when you're done editing, make sure you go up to object selection mode. Alright, so in this section we're going to discuss Text Mesh Pro, which is a tool standard to Unity. It allows us to add floating text boxes within the game world, as well as text that we could convey to our player through what is called the canvas. For our purposes right now, we're simply going to create a text box that says hello and welcome to my level or something like that. I would like you to use it in my class to explain your level to me as you're demonstrating it. So you can run up to and show me that, you know, this is my example of a working door, and so on. So Text Mesh Pro is really easy to make. We're simply going to select our main plane there and focus in on it so that when I create it, it creates it at 0. I'm going to go to Game Object. We'll say 3D Object and Text Mesh Pro. Now the first time you use Text Mesh Pro, it is going to bring up this importer message. We want to import the essentials. In fact, we have to if we want it to work. And then it will also give us some extras as well. I always import them, not 100% sure if they're needed, but just in case, what's it going to hurt, right? Okay, so once it's imported, now we have this giant text box inside of our 3D world. So very simply, with it selected, we're going to go look at our inspector. Always a good idea to rename your objects as you're creating them, so we'll call this welcome text. We can change things like the transform position. Now primarily you're going to want to move it um, in world so you can position it a little easier, but you may wish to go ahead and get it exactly where you want it as well. We can come down now. We can change the sound, what the text reads, and so we're going to say, "Welcome to my level." We can come down a little further. Here we have options for our paragraph, so we want to go ahead and align it to the center. Any font that you currently have in your assets folder you can use. Unlike a lot of other programs, you must have a copy of your font in the assets folder for Unity to access it. And we can see that this is the default that comes with TextMesh Pro when I click on that. Change its style, so we can make it bold, we can make it italic, put in a subscript, put in an underline it, we could strike through it. I would rather underline it myself. Not the fanciest font in the world, but for my purpose it'll work just fine. So I'm going to move it off and position it a little bit. And the last thing I might do is change the size, and we'll say make it just a bit smaller, 36, so we'll say 22. That looks pretty good. We could change the vertex color of it, so we could change it to red, blue, green, yellow, whatever we'd like. I'm going to go ahead and just leave mine white. And let's test our movie and see what that looks like. So as I run around, then I can look up and I can say, "Welcome to my level." I can come see the box that I made, which is no longer a box, it's more like an arrow. Maybe I could use that to direct my player to go in the direction I want them to go. These two simple things are going to help you begin to develop your level a lot more. In the next section of this video, I am going to do some building, very little talking, and when you watch it, it will probably be played back at least double, maybe 3 times speed. The purpose of that portion is to simply show you the process. Alright, I hope you found this video helpful. If you have, be sure and let me know, and I hope you have a good week. Okay, we're back. The previous section of the video was approximately 30 minutes in real time. I hope that you were able to see just how quickly and easily that we could put together a prototype of a level, put in some lights so we can create some ambiance, and a little bit of text so that the player knows kind of what's going on. For this assignment, I'd like you to be able to complete something similar to what I made in class. And then for homework, I want you to begin working on your main level, your semester project, as it were. And I want you to focus primarily on just laying out 3 to 5 rooms and have a purpose for each one of those rooms. When thinking about this, I would recommend thinking about games that you've played, environments that you've enjoyed past in games. At this point, I want us to stick primarily to creating an indoor area because we will learn terrain in a couple of weeks. If you have any questions, be sure and let me know. But real quick, here is the completed demo that I've created for you. So we start off. Welcome to the red room. The lighting looks pretty good for as simple as it is, I would have to say. We have little blue lights giving us a little extra. Got a nice blending. It goes from bright red to blue to purple. When we come in the blue room, we can look over here. We see the red light and the green light leading to the green room. Very quick and easy. Anybody can do it. It just takes a little bit of practice. Hope you all have a good week.